want to get out to the big breaking news that we're following here out of New Mexico revolving around the actor Alec Baldwin. I want to put up this tweet one more time from TMZ saying the charges are going to be dropped against him for that involuntary manslaughter case involving the fatal shooting of Helena Hutchins, a cinematographer. We want to continue to cover this here on Live Now from Fox. We're going to bring in criminal defense attorney, friend of the program here, Matt Timpanek. Thank you so much for joining us here on Live Now from Fox. And we were talking before I just brought you in. Certainly not a surprise for you. Why is that the case?
This case was very weak to begin with. Remember, in an involuntary manslaughter case, you have to be able to prove that the individual is showing reckless disregard for human life. This case was likely not that. Alec Baldwin was acting in a Western. And what do you do in Westerns? You shoot prop guns at each other. Likely what was happening is they were trying to act out a scene, like get the feel of it, with a prop gun thought to be a cold gun. And of course, there was a live ammunition round in it. The act of actually doing that process is something that is reasonable under the circumstances. All right, point it and you're going to fire the gun. And you fired at your cinematographer and that had a live bullet in it. That's not on Alec Baldwin. Him doing what he was being told, if it were, acting on a scene in a Western, that is a key fact. Because in Westerns, you shoot guns at each other. Based on those facts and circumstances, I don't think the case should have been brought with, and no crossing it or dropping it after it's been filed is the correct decision. And
we were expected to go into the court a little bit in about 2 weeks' time. The time frame of this, can you give us a little bit more insight into potentially why it happened before this got there, and maybe just the time frame of it all?
Likely what happened is prosecutors, when they get cases closer to trial or court hearings, they start to reevaluate their case more. When they filed it, I think in mid-January, they were doing so under great political pressure that the only reason Alec Baldwin hadn't been charged is because he was a celebrity, and he was then charged. But as you get closer to trial, you start to look at your case more as like, how are you going to actually prove this? And if you can't prove this, what is worse, dropping a case and maybe getting one news cycle of bad publicity, or taking it to trial that could take several weeks and eventually losing, which is very likely what would have happened had they actually took it to trial. A jury would have had the same question I did when they filed it. How is his actions show a reckless disregard for the human life? It just doesn't.
Correct. Yeah, it certainly gained a lot of publicity both before the charges were filed and now leading up as they're being dropped. And of course, Alec Baldwin wasn't the only person charged with involuntary manslaughter. The armorer Hannah Gutierrez-Reed was also. Do you believe that potentially those charges won't be dropped? Do you think they'll continue to proceed with those?
I think they will proceed with those. Somebody had to be responsible for putting a live bullet into the gun that killed the cinematographer that was shot by Alec Baldwin. That individual had a legal obligation to make sure that there were blanks instead of real bullets in the gun. And I definitely think that carelessness could be something that would be triable for a jury to be able to be like, her actions show a reckless disregard for human life.
And as we continue on, obviously, the person that died, the cinematographer, Helena Hutchins there, certainly a tragic and on a low-budget film, and that was one of the elements of this case. But another element has been around the prosecutors, as another prosecutor has been removed. Certainly, there are lawyers that come in forth on cases like this. Maybe how did that factor into this, knowing that there's a little bit on the prosecution side, a disturbance of lawyers that maybe not be carrying this all the way to trial?
What will happen is, what I can tell you is this: if you've ever had a legal case where you have multiple attorneys, I can almost guarantee your new attorney is not going to like what your old attorney did. And I definitely think that the new prosecutor on this case definitely did not agree with what the old prosecutor did. I think the new prosecutor looked at the facts and evidence and says, this is a tragic accident, but I don't think there's enough to criminally hold Alec Baldwin responsible. He was acting reasonably. His actions weren't egregious. He wasn't running around pointing and shooting at everyone. He literally was doing a scene, and he fired the gun what he thought was cold, and it turned out not to be. Had there was evidence that they routinely put real bullets in and they shot him around playing Russian roulette, that would have been a different fact pattern, but that's not what happened here.
Is the fact that Alec Baldwin, obviously a movie star, played in a ton of roles, also has a lot of experience kind of in this role, handling weapons on a movie set. Do you think that factor played anything into this, knowing that just the reputation he brings, the credibility he brings, knowing that maybe he should have known that this was a live round?
I definitely think that him being able to tell the difference between a real bullet and a fake bullet definitely didn't really play a role in it. What I definitely think happened is the threat of a highly publicized trial where cameras from Law and Crime Network, from Court TV, would have been covering this around the clock, and the district attorney's office in New Mexico would have been under a huge microscope. In criminal cases, especially high-profile ones, prosecutors' offices are expected to win. And I definitely think with dropping the case as far away from trial as it looks like it was, they definitely did not think they could secure a conviction at trial.
All right, Matt Timpanek, thank you so much for joining us, criminal defense attorney, giving us some insight as the charges now being dropped against Alec Baldwin in that fatal Rush shooting. We appreciate your time, as always, here on Live Now from Fox.
Thank you, Andy.
All right, thank you again as we continue on.